Okay, so I'll talk in this session. I will talk about automated testing of Android apps in the cloud with Azure DevOps pipelines. Hopefully, it will not be too technical sessions. First of all, a few sentences about myself. So I'm Eyal Yovel. I am solution architect at SauceLabs, where I work with organizations across EMEA and the US to improve their testing practices. I have over 15 years experience in software development and software automations. In the last 7 years, I have been living in London, so quite close to Oxford, maybe for the next meetup. So during these sessions, I will talk about what is CICD, and I will mention CICD tools, why Microsoft Azure DevOps, what is Azure Pipelines, Azure Pipelines key concepts, the task for different personas, for QA and for developers. So, and I will demo a pipeline for a developer and a pipeline for a QA, and and after that, a summary and time for QA. Okay, so I think that Marcin already mentions in the beginning, very high level, what is CI/CD. So now maybe in the graphical way. So let's understand first of all what is CI/CD, and we are talking about pipelines when we want to automate and create a process where the build and the release of the application will be fully automated. And we start with developers. We start with the developer, develop the application and write the source code file. And they need to share the application's the application source code. So we have the Git repo, tools such as GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket. Whenever they push the code or have a pull request, but this is the place where they push the code. And of course, we're not talking only about one developers. We are talking about, of course, about teams, developers, backend developer, front-end developers, iOS developer, Android developers. All of the developers are using the Git to validate and integrate code. And the Git is actually to validate and integrate code across teams. So from the Git, just a moment, from the Git, okay, from the Git, we build, we go to the build, we build applications, we compile the app, we run the build commands according to what we actually build. And the output of this process is that we have the output. So it can be jar file, DLL file, APK, IPA, zip file. It's all actually depend what we actually develop. And from here, we have the release step, deploy the app to a QA environment. And from here to the deploy the productions. Okay, so this is really in high levels. There can be more tasks and there can be more steps and more tasks. For example, when we build applications, it can also involve unit tests, static code analysis. So it can be more tasks, but in a high level, this is CI/CD in a high level. CI/CD tools, the popular CI/CD tools in the market, probably you're familiar with some of them: Jenkins, Bitrise, CircleCI, TeamCity, and Azure DevOps. And actually, in the last few years, I think that also the Git tools, GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket are also, there are some companies that also use the repository, the repository tools, also include, for example, GitHub include the actions. So you also can use the Git to create a pipeline for the company. So why actually Microsoft Azure DevOps? I will very quickly mention some of the services that Microsoft Azure DevOps provide, because it's not only about pipeline. So in Azure DevOps, there is the board to manage the work of the project. There is the repository, like the GitHub, but also Azure has its own repository. The pipeline, that's what we are here for, to automation workflow to build and publish the code. Test plan to automate the testing process, and Azure artifacts the output of the pipeline and code how to handle that. And in this, and here we will talk about pipelines, about the pipelines. Okay, so what is actually Azure Pipelines? So Azure Pipeline is a cloud-based service that you can use to automatically build, test, and deploy your code. And it's very important to understand that Azure Pipeline, it's Microsoft, but if it's Microsoft, it doesn't mean that you can only use C# or .NET dependents. It works with about any language or project type. In my demo, I have two pipelines. One is Android Studio, that it's not C#, and the other one is the testing environment, the testing framework that I run to test it, and that's in Java. It's not in C#. So it's not only about C# or .NET, even that it's from Microsoft. The other point is easily and quickly deploy your application using out-of-the-box tasks. I will show you that when I create the pipeline, I was really needed. In some pipeline, you don't need even to add or to add your code. It's out of the box. Mostly it's work fine. And build using Windows, Linux, or Mac agents. So we can run our tasks, we can run our jobs so Microsoft support that you can run it on Windows, Linux, or Mac machines, Mac agents. So what is the key concept with Azure Pipelines? First of all, there is a trigger to run a pipeline. So there is something that starts our pipeline. Trigger can be, for example, we push to a repository, to the master branch in the repository. It can be that every day at midnight, we decided to run our pipeline, or we can manually click on the run manually and to start to run the pipeline. But there should be a trigger to start to run the pipeline, and we'll see that in the demo. So pipelines contain one or more stages. Okay, in my pipelines, it includes only one stage, and the stage is job that run on an agent. So there's a jobs that run on the agent, run on the image, on the virtual machines, and the stage and the job comprise steps or task. Okay, so each stage includes a task, and the tasks are built-in task, or if there are companies that add more tasks that can be downloaded from Microsoft Marketplace. So there is a huge applications that in the Microsoft Marketplace that can be used, that you can use to create your pipelines. Okay, so in the previous slides, I talked about what is CICDs. I mentioned this diagram, and now I just want to focus on these two personas. I want to focus on the developers here, this guy, or this persons, and about the QA. So what actually, if I want to create or to understand what are the tasks that each one need to run. So let's start from the developer. So the developer's pipelines. So the developer pipelines, mostly the trigger to run the developer pipelines will be push code to the master branch. Okay, so push the code, and that's trigger to start to run the pipeline. So in my opinion, the two important tasks of when the pipeline is running is we want to build our app. Okay, so we're building our app, and we upload the output to a storage for testing. Okay, so we want that the output, it can be APK. In my demo, it will be APK files that I'm upload it to a storage, to a SauceLabs storage. So others, it can be used in different environment and by different people in the organizations. Okay, and if we go to the QA pipelines, so the QA, actually the trigger to start to run the QA pipelines can be or successfully finish the developer pipelines, but also it can run every day. So there's many organizations that these two pipelines are separate, they are not connected. And actually every day at, I don't know, at midnight, this pipeline will start to run, will pick up the latest applications that was uploaded during the day or whenever it was uploaded, and start to run the pipeline. And in here, the only task that I added is the only task for the developer for my demo. Just a moment. For my demo is to run. It can be to run the test. So it can be end-to-end test, smoke test, regression test, name it. Yes. So to run the test on the candidate output, on the applications, on the new applications that was created from the previous pipelines. Okay, so let's go to the developer. Let's understand what is my demo about. So in my demo, I created a really simple application, APK application, Android application using Android Studio. Okay, I built it, and this is really simple one. You just add two numbers, click on the sum, and you should get the result of adding these two numbers. Okay, if I go to Android Studio, click build bundles, and build the APKs. So if I go to my folders, I will see somewhere I will find my APK file. And this is really important because in the pipeline, when I create a task for the pipeline, I need to know where is the APK file if I need to upload it to a storage. Okay. You can also see here that I didn't do that in the just a moment. I didn't mention that, but for example, you can see that I have the Android Studio above, the Android test. So that's kind of a espresso test that I didn't use, but that's what I meant, that you can have more tasks. So for example, the developer, before upload the APK, can also run, in this case, it's a native framework like Espresso to run on the output. My code is in a public repository. This is a public repository that I upload my project that now that you see in the previous slides. For this demo, I just copy it and create an empty one, so I can build my demo, and I call it my first Android app demo. So during this presentation, you will see the demo. So that's a private repo. You cannot find it, but you can find my public repository. So let's demo, first of all, let's demo the developer's pipelines. So I will not run it from here. I will run it from here. Yes, this one. Okay, so first of all, you can see here, this is Azure Pipelines. Okay, this is the URL, dev.azure.com. I created account, EY, Eyal Yovel. I create, if it's empty, you don't have any organization, so you can go to the left and new organizations, and you will create an organizations. And now I will start run my videos, and I'm creating a project. So I want to start by creating a project. Okay, so that's my project. For this one, type is a private, not sharing that, and I create the project. Okay, here in the left, you can see all the services from Azure DevOps, but we are focused on the pipeline. So I go to the pipeline, it's empty. I click on create new pipelines, and I need to select where is my code. So my code is in GitHub, so I will select GitHub. And after I'm selecting GitHub, I need to select a repository from my account. And first of all, you need to understand, or here in this slide, it's in the demo, it's just 2 slides to just select the repository and select the GitHub and select the repository from my account. But if this is the first time, there are more screens because you need to give permission to Azure to connect to the GitHub and to your account in GitHub. Okay, so this is what I said out of the box when you create the pipeline. So Azure already recognized that my repository, you can find in my repository graded command, you can find in my repository Android commands. So mostly I'm talking about building an Android application or building a graded Java graded applications. So that's the two first suggestions of Azure how to build my applications. If it's not these two, so I click on more application and I can see a list of more services that I can select from. But in this case, it's Android Studio, so I select the Android project. And actually, from this, that's it. So you can see that the trigger that was built for me out of the box, it's main. It's mean that every push commands, everything that in the master will trigger this pipeline. In the pool, you can see that the virtual machine image that was selected is to run these steps, to run this task on a Mac operating system. I can change it, okay? And the steps include, for now, the steps, let me continue to run the video, and the steps continue in this only one task to build my applications, okay? So I will click on Save and Run, okay? And okay, commit directly to master branch. So I will change, so I will commit the changes to my repository. And now after I'm saving that and the repository and the job start to run, I can go to my repository, to my first Android app demo. And you can see that a new file was created, Azure Pipeline YAML file. And this is the YAML file that include all the tasks that need to be run for this repository. Okay, the job's finished to run, Gradle, and everything seems fine. So when I first created that, I said, okay, the jobs run fine, but actually, how do I know that the APK was actually created? So just to make sure that I can see that the APK are actually is created, so I can add more tasks. So now I have one task. I can add as many tasks that I want. So I add a command line. So in the task, I looking for a command line, and this command line, let's select the command line, and the command line will include, take a look after running the first task and the APK should be created. I want to go and take a look if it's actually in the location where the APK file should be. So that's just for myself to take a look and make sure that it's not only green because it's run fine, but I also want to see that the APK file is actually was created. So again, I saved, I run. This is a video, so I jumped during the videos, and I can go, and now I have the Gradle command, the first step of the Gradle, and I have the command line. And if I go to the command line, let's go to the command line. Okay, I can see that I run ls to the debug, and I can see that the APK file was created. So that's good. So now I have two tasks, one to upload, one to build the application, one just to make sure that the APK file was created. And I want to upload the APK file to a place, to a storage that my team, that the QA team can actually test or to use this APK file. So I selected, because I'm from SauceLabs, so I selected to use the SauceLabs platform to upload the APK to this storage. This presentation, it's not about SauceLabs, so I just want two sentences that you understand what is SauceLabs. So SauceLabs is a testing cloud for web and mobile applications. It's a platform for running your automated test or manually on virtual machines, simulator, emulators, or real devices. So if I open the SauceLab with my credentials, okay, in the mobile app, I can see all the storage, and I want to copy the file that was created now. I want to upload it to this storage, so the developer or the QA or others, people in my organization can test it. So to copy, to upload this file, there is from SauceLabs, there is API that I'm using, calls command. I will not said a lot about this command, but this command is more or less find from where I want to copy it from where I want to copy the file. What is the file that I want to copy? I need I need to set the URL, SauceLab URL, and I need, of course, I need the source username and source access key to access to the to source platform. So for using the source username, I need to define in Azure. There is a variable, so I need to define two variables. I need to define the username. I need to define the access key. That's the credentials that I need to manage to connect to SauceLabs. Each vendors, each platform, probably there are different credentials, but that's for connecting to SauceLabs. So I created two variables. I can save it. I can run. Okay, so I will run the pipeline. Okay, so now I have 3 steps: Gradle command line to take a look, and the last command line. Anyway, if I refresh, I go to SauceLabs storage, and I can see that the first one, the first Zen was added less than 1 minute. So that's the one that was added now. I can click or select device or, okay, so this is the first one. So if I manually want to test it, I can choose device, and I can select from the list of real devices that are located in Source platform. So let's just select one device. I open this device. So when I open the device, the application is installed, and manually I can just take a look that applications is actually working as expected. Okay, so that was the manually I can test also on these applications. Okay, so this was the first pipeline. Why I cannot? So this was the first pipeline. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. Maximize. Okay. So now let's go to the second pipeline for the QA. So the QA automated test framework. So in this example, it's a Java TestNG framework. Okay. When I run my test, I want to run it on SauceLabs, the platform. So I need to provide the username and access key. This is the URL to connect to run my Appium. So I need the Appium. Appium is the framework that I use to run my automated test on the cloud. So this is the URL to connect to the Appium servers for EU data center, and this is for US data center. And the capability, so the first capability is device name. So I just want to run my test on any available Samsung device. And the application is the name of the applications. And a test, JUnit test and G Java simple test is find the first edit, send the key, find the second edit, send the key, the second numbers, click on the button, on the add, click on the add, and verify that the expected result 8 is actually the result that I can find in the applications. Okay, very simple test. For this one, the public repository is my first Android app test examples, and for this demo, it's located here. Okay, so now I didn't start to run. So now I have the first pipeline. I want to create a second pipeline and click new pipelines. Okay, and again, I should select where is my code. So my code is in GitHub, and I need to select the repository. So this is the first one. And again, we can see that Azure find out that my project is Maven. So it suggests me to use Maven. If it's not in the list, I can select show more and select different service to build my application. But in this case, it's Maven. So I just need to change here because the command that I run is Maven clean install to run my test. So I created the goals clean install. And if I want to run my test from Azure or even from my local, I need to define also here, I need to define two variables how to connect to source platform. I will run this test, save and run. The job start to run. Okay, I can see that the Maven start to run. I can see that two tests are running. If I go to source platform, if I go to the automated to the test result, to the real devices that I'm running, I can see that I have two tests. So I just selected two Samsung devices, and these two Samsung devices are running my my test. And test finish, I have the video. I can actually take a look that the test run as expected. Okay, so now I have two pipelines and I want actually to connect between these two pipelines. So from the QA pipelines, I can go to edit, and in the edit, okay, in the edit, I have triggers, and I can select a new trigger. So you can see that the trigger will run when I push to the repository, but I also add a trigger to run this pipeline when my developers pipeline finish to run. So in this way, I can trigger that the QA pipeline will run after the developer pipeline is finished. Okay, and if we want to see the whole process, so I'm going to the Android Studio. So in the Android Studio, I just change something of the button. I just change the distance from of the button from 23 to 25. Okay, I will go to Git. Okay, I will select my applications. I can change. This is the change from 23 to 25. I commit to the master. I push this change, and the trigger for the first repository is pushing the change. So now I push the change, and the first pipeline should be triggered and should start to run. Okay. So we can see that, yes, so the first pipeline start to run. Okay. And when it's finished, I'll refresh the page. Okay, and now the second pipeline start to run. And if I go here to the real devices, I can see that two different devices are selected and run on the run my test. Okay. So the last slide, just to summarize these two pipelines. So we have the dev pipeline, we have the QA pipelines. From the dev pipeline, the trigger, we push a code to the Git repository, to the Android Git repository. That's trigger the running all the task. The first task, they checked out the Git repository to Azure image. From here, we build the Android app, we upload the APK to source storage, and the result of that is that we have a new application, a new APK in the storage. There is a trigger from the QA pipeline, from the second pipeline. There is a trigger because this pipeline is finished to run. And we start also this pipeline. So this is the Java Git repository. Again, we check out the repository and we run the automated test on source with device center. And the result of that is that we can see the real devices that the tests are located and run, in this case, successfully on the platform.